Assalamu alaikum. A very warm good evening on a very cold and frosty evening from London. This is the episode of Talking Point, and I'm your host, Neaz Ahmed. Today in our studios, we have a very distinguished academic, an author, a social thinker, Dr. Syed Manzurul Islsm of Gloucestershire University. He has taught Gloucestershire University post-colonial literature and creative writing. He has written many books, and he is here tonight to talk about some of his achievements, some of his observations about the Bangladeshi diaspora in this country, the Bangladeshi writers, and also some of our own social problems. Welcome to the show, Dr. Syed Manzoor.
Thank you very much, Neaz Bhai, for inviting me to the show.
Thank you very much. Particularly, বিশেষ করে এই ওয়েদারে আপনি যে কষ্ট করে আসলেন 100 miles travel করে. It's so kind of you, and on behalf of NTV, I greatly appreciate it, and it's an honor and a pleasure.
ধন্যবাদ.
আপনি কয়েকটি বই লিখেছেন রিসেন্টলি। আপনি আপনার বইটা পাবলিশ হলো Songs of the Swampland, based on the Bangladeshi Liberation War. You have also written other fiction work like Burrow and Map Makers of a Spitalfield. আপনি কিছুদিনের জন্য ইস্ট লন্ডনেও কাজ করেছিলেন as a racial harassment officer. আর বোধহয় আপনি অনেক কিছু যেটা এক্সপিরিয়েন্স করলেন, যেটা দেখলেন, আপনি অবজার্ভ করলেন, and lot of it has gone into your writings. ফিকশন লিখেছেন আপনি, এবং আপনি নন ফিকশন যেটা একাডেমিক ওয়ার্কও করেছেন আপনি। আপনার রাইটিংটা আপনাদের যারা আগে ইন্টারভিউ করেছেন আপনাকে, তারা বলে যে ইট গ্রোজ আউট অফ ইউর এক্সপিরিয়েন্স in London and back home in Bangladesh. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fiction and non-fiction both. See.
Yeah, I mean, I came here to England around 1975, and then most of my education took place here in England.
In England, yes.
And also my involvement with the community here, and the problems that we sort of faced, and out of that, my writing, grew. Yeah. But at the same time, part of Bengali diaspora, we have our memories of our left behind in homeland.
Right.
So I'm constantly also pulled by those memories.
It's like a pull and push.
Pull and push, exactly. Yeah.
You have been teaching colonial, post-colonial literature and also creative writing.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that the host society normally does not accept non-native speakers as professors of English. Did you ever come across that kind of feeling?
Yeah. I mean, when I was appointed in the English department, there was a big surprise, and initially I encountered lots of hostilities, even, and I had to prove myself that I could do the job, So it took them some time for them to accept me as a part of the faculty. So it wasn't a kind of easy passage. But I suppose now there are many people like myself working in the academia, in the English department. It's become kind of normal. But when I joined about 25 years ago, we weren't that many in the faculties.
What my experience is that they do accept, like on the fringes, like literature not, but linguistics, yes. See.
Yeah.
But when it comes to literature, it's generally thought that only a native speaker of English can teach or be a good writer.
Yeah.
But that has been proved many times wrong, see,
Yeah.
because so many writers of the world, from Africa to Asia, they have been recognized by the highest authorities, highest award-giving authorities, and they have been, even in this country, there are so many Indian writers, originally Indian but living here, like you are, there was another lady whose name has often been mentioned with Brick Lane, Monica Ali. Then there are others. This Anam. And there are others who have written from Bangladesh, and they have been accepted and published here. See?
I think that's the kind of crucial turning point. I mean, in a sense that if you look at the kind of history of the English literature, in a sense that it was quite a kind of limited. What constituted English literature was quite limited. But when the so-called post-colonial writers made entry into the department of English, people like B.S. Naipaul or Derek Walcott, even people like Salman Rushdie and others, when their presence is felt in the department, as I suppose internally also, and those departments also kind of shifting, in a sense that kind of incursion of, if you like, the post-colonial literature in the traditional English department shifted the parameters. So hence, I suppose there was a room created for people like us to teach.
Also, the people from the colonies, they had probably better understanding of the language, literature, culture, and so they could perhaps transfer those ideas into English language. See, like there is a person here based in London, Mihir Bose. He writes mostly on politics and sports. There is another lady who has written on British affairs, but she's basically she's from West Bengal. She lives in London. And there are many others, see, of some of the names that you have mentioned. They are very well known, and they sell very well, see, because they write very well, and they are read very well.
But I don't think it's simply a question of competence. I think it's a kind of long-standing political and cultural kind of question.
True.
In a sense that. In a sense that I don't think sort of the parameters of power have shifted. It's not, but in a sense that so with the advent of multiculturalism, the kind of the way sort of the questions of diversity kind of entered in the political discourse. That kind of sort of put the agenda, if you like, the presence of minorities, Black Asian minorities into the exalted institutions, like kind of well known in universities and colleges. In a sense that there is a kind of long-standing power struggles taking place. In a sense that the majority kind of community here wanted to keep it within a certain sort of boundaries. In a sense that now the presence of
typecast.
Exactly, minorities here knocking at this other door. So in a sense that at least they were forced to kind of let some of us in it. Although we are in the periphery of the institution often, but at least
at least the door has been opened, the foot has been put
inside.
Slightly. It's very difficult, yes. We have to knock on the door, knock your head on the wall. At least some dents are made, and some success stories are
so
there.
So our sort of presence in the institutions, not simply because of our competence. Okay, we are competent, but it also result of these kind of the struggle, taking
long
place,
struggle,
between the insiders and outsiders,
Right.
and which is also a kind of part of the long history of the kind of colonial relationship.
Right, right.
As England as a kind of the colonial power, major colonial power, and we are as a kind of from the colonized periphery. So it's a part of that dynamics.
It's the kind of relationship between the
Yeah.
sahibs and the natives.
Yeah, exactly.
Your work on the Bangladeshi diaspora, and also you have worked on many other aspects of this.
Yeah.
Would you consider that people who just live abroad are part of diaspora? What is diaspora anyway? I mean,
It's a complicated kind of question.
যারা বিদেশে থাকে।
Obviously, diaspora, because the idea in a popular sense grew out of the Jewish experience. Sort of the kind of the sense of the Jewish exile from their originary homeland in Palestine, then their displacement and wandering into foreign sort of parts, But at the same time, although sort of Jews had kind of adopted many different culture, but they always had this longing for this imaginary homeland elsewhere.
yeah.
So, I mean, in a sense, the other community, Africans, who were forced to sort of come here,
Yes.
and the migrants, subsequent migrants that we come here,
Yes.
sort of in a sense that after staying here for much longer sort of period, we also acquired this kind of diasporic
Right.
consciousness. On the one hand, our location is here. We know that we are not actually
Going back.
in a literal sense, not going back, but at the same time, we are also kind of structured by
Yeah.
our sort of memories,
Right.
our longing for the other place.
Right.
So as a result, I think diaspora not so much a kind of a tangible kind of reality, but I think it's a kind of the fact of consciousness. Yeah. So in a sense, the diasporic consciousness is a kind of split consciousness.
But we have been here for now, this is the third generation perhaps, see, or even fourth. See.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have gone through, but we still have this kind of, we are in that mode.
Yeah.
Probably we are not here for a long time, we'll go back, see.
Yeah.
And that's why you see this, a lot of ads on,
Yeah.
on television, see.
Yeah. Yeah.
It goes like people are sending money home, people are sending goods home, people are traveling home, and all the time. It's not just the Bangladeshi community, it's the Indians. It's a bigger community everywhere, because they have been out in Africa for a long time. They have been out in Canada for a long time, out in America for a long time, in Europe for a long time. But for Bangladeshis, it's a recent phenomenon. This is understandable. But this feeling that my desh is pulling me, or that my feelings are like that.
Yeah.
So do you think that this will diminish as we go generation by generation?
No, I think it is kind of changes and shapes. For instance, look at the kind of African American diaspora.
Right.
They have been in the kind of in the West for I don't know how many hundreds of years.
Right.
But still, kind of their sensibility is structured by the diasporic consciousness. On the one hand, they are kind of part of United States. They have been there for now. We have even a kind of African American president.
Yes.
But at the same time, they have this longing, if you like, for this imaginary homeland in Africa.
Right.
Although they are not physically ever going back to Africa, but the idea that there is another kind of notional homeland elsewhere.
Right.
Kind of, if you like, sort of gives them this, the double consciousness.
Right.
They are of United States, but at the same time, they are not. They are of, somewhere else, but at the same time, they are not of somewhere else.
Right. On this very interesting point, Dr. Manzur, we will take a break, and we'll come back, and then we'll discuss further more. Viewers, we need to take a break, and when we come back, we'll discuss more of literature, language, diasporas, Bangladeshi community overseas, and his fictional books and non-fictional books. Don't go away.
আপনারা দেখছেন টকিং পয়েন্ট।